Welcome back to the channel, guys. Me over here again with Fred Piry. Round two, if you guys haven't seen the round one, part one of this interview, it's about Donald Trump and the assassination attempt. Definitely check that out. An incredible interview. You will not find anything like that anywhere on the internet. I know there's a lot of experts out there talking about their stuff. Some of them are very good. Some of them are not so good. But Fred is a wealth of knowledge. He has been out. He's been in the field for 35 years, so he knows what he's doing. So definitely check out that part one. With that being said, Fred, I don't know how to get rid of this thing. Oh,
Throwing the hearts around.
okay. I tried to hide that thing, but I don't know what I clicked. It just gave me a bunch of hearts. Anyways, Fred, thanks for coming on again. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, Kaya. Great.
Very good. So, okay, we've got some new information. Kimblerly Cheatle, obviously the director of Secret Service, is testifying, or has. Is it done yet or no? I think she's still going.
It may be, but some of the channels aren't covering her now. I was watching it. I was listening to it while I was working out in the gym this morning, seeing if I could get any new facts.
Same here. And there are some new stuff. So with that being said, why don't we just get started? Let's give people some updated information. I know there's some stuff out there. What do you think? What do you want to start with?
Well, a couple things that I picked up. Number one, kind of looking at things. We were kind of looking at things in the micro on the tactical aspect on Saturday.
Yeah.
And now we're hearing some things about, headquarters and things like that. Now, you and I, at the time, were speculating on how many agents were assigned to this thing. And the ones that we could count, we were at like 15, maybe 18 that we had counted. She did say that there were overall 22 agents assigned to the detail.
You know what? I'm surprised, and you tell me if I'm wrong here. When I was in the bureau, and this does make perfect sense, you really couldn't talk about the number of personnel in certain squads or certain areas. I would think this information would be classified or law enforcement sensitive at best, or at worst. Sorry. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're really not seeing exact details of what their assignments were. So it's kind of an overall 22. But again, we can make some assumptions out of that 22 because she said certain things I'll get to that I picked up on. But overall, watching this morning, the congresspersons were really laying into her, and she really wasn't transparent, as she was saying, I want to be transparent. They were asking basic questions, and now we're almost at day 10, and, who did this, who did that, and she really wasn't answering a lot of the questions. Some of the stuff, that came out around, she said the 22 agents, and then the other thing I picked up on, Kaya, was she said the advance generally they came out around 5 days. I said they could come out depending on the size and the complexity, like maybe the RNC, 2 weeks out there, So she did say that 5 days prior. Now, who made up that advance? She did mention Pittsburgh field office, but I would speculate again that it was somebody that was on the permanent Trump detail and supplemented with additional agents from the Pittsburgh field office. Okay. One noteworthy piece did come out that I picked up on operationally. And it didn't come from there, it came from a news source. And basically, they said the morning of, there was a local police briefing. The Secret Service was not in attendance. That just literally
not even
is mind-boggling
field office, not even the Pittsburgh field office. Nobody,
no agent. It was reported that the briefing for local law enforcement of the morning of. Now Secret Service says they were at other briefings and things like that, but the morning of, hey, we're getting ready to take the field, gang. The coach the Secret Service was not present, according to one of the news sources.
Okay, that is
So
insane because
that's alarming to me.
it's very alarming because if you think about this, Secret Service is in charge of this entire operation. Secret Service determines the op plan, or I don't want to say op plan, the event plan, whatever it is, right? Secret Service is accompanied by local guys, so they work together. So
Correct.
if Secret Service comes up with those points of dominations, points where you're going to post the guys and gals, whoever they are, and you have a briefing in the morning, who's running that show then? Like, who's telling people what to do?
Interesting. You know, I'm a big analogy guy, and I go back to the football. You have the offense and defense, and, you know, you're playing the game. But, you know, the locals are like the specialty teams that are helping you out in support of your offense and defense. And, you know, you're not there the morning of for last minute preparations and intel briefings and everything. You know, Congress was really concentrating on this Iranian threat, what they knew about Cook. And quite frankly, she was stonewalling everything. Well, you know, the FBI is doing this and we don't know about this. And, you know, and they kept saying, well, you said you were going to be transparent.
Yeah,
and
she was doing the blame game a little bit. And also, if you guys haven't seen this, the Congress deal with the Kimblerly Cheatle, you have to watch it. She answered virtually no questions. It was the most political answers I've ever seen, the ones that she actually answered. It's almost like there was a movie. I forget what that movie was. I think it was Mission Impossible, that the guy was saying, I can, IMF, whatever.
Neither confirm nor deny.
That's it.
That it exists.
That's it.
Classic.
She literally played
Admit
that
nothing,
game.
make counter accusations, and deny everything. Think about that one.
That's what she did. She's like, I can neither confirm nor deny. What? So,
sad.
You know what was so crazy? Fred, they asked her simply this: hey, what time did the suspicious person information came? What time? Like, that is a documented, like, you should have it on your comms.
And after 10 days, there are, you know, they said, has anyone been suspended? Has anyone been fired? Well, I'm waiting to do, you know, a total assessment and all that. Okay. I mean, you could put somebody on you know, the beach for a while till you figure it out. A couple things I did glean from this thing. It was really hard to get any facts, but she did say that when Secret Service found out from the locals about the shooter, and, you know, he was a person of interest, you know, looking around, that they had some agents looking for him. So think about what we were talking about with the PI, protective intelligence teams, and my experience of running a lot of those things. It appears from her comment, because you're not pulling people off that are doing body cover and that are part of host standing when, you know, President or former President Trump is there.
Posted people.
So these are additional agents that are working the crowd, possibly, that went looking for him. So she said that there were, she didn't give a number, but let's just say minimum of 2 personnel, Secret Service, looking for him.
Okay.
So now we're starting to kind of feel getting that on the ground operation and what they did. Now, they asked her about drones and technology. And again, she neither confirmed nor denied, but just said, depending on this and that. And, you know, she deflected. But you and I had talked about how simple it was. And it's really not that much of an additional resource, except maybe bringing one technician, not an agent, to operate that and be in the command center to fly that thing and take pictures and have real time over the venue site.
Yeah. So what we know from this Congress deal is, number one, she revealed 22 agents just strictly from the Secret Service, United States Secret Service.
Yeah, I don't know if I got that from a news source. Kaya.
Okay, 22 agents.
She was reluctant, but they kept asking her, you know, detailed yes, no questions, which she failed to. And one congresswoman, you know, quite frankly said, well, that's a no, and kept going. She'd ask her this. He goes, well, you know, this and that, her response. And then the congresswoman would say, that's another no. So, you know, she was not forthcoming on their questions.
Exactly. So 22 agents, which is pretty close to what you and I were guesstimating it based on what we saw on the videos. And of course, there's HSI there supplementing. There's Pennsylvania State Police, obviously local guys, PD
Yeah.
and the sheriff's department. There, I guarantee you, plainclothes FBI guys just there, the intel team doing their thing. Obviously, PI folks, protective intelligence folks from the Secret
Yeah.
Service. Plainclothes, you don't know who they are. They're just walking around with the MAGA hats, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And who else would be there? Obviously, that's about it, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, ATF, 100% ATF.
Yeah.
Probably
It could
U.S.
be
Marshals,
ATF,
a couple
correct.
of them. I don't know, right?
Who knows?
Exactly. So there's a crap ton of law enforcement presence there. And what we find out is that 22 of those is Secret Service. Pretty good. So that place should have been extremely safe based on what we're seeing. So the resources part, like there's not enough staffing there, that's not true.
Yeah, it went back and forth whether, they were denied that, and then they got into what Jill Biden's event was doing and were people diverted to hers. And I couldn't get a clear answer out of the whole thing. So operationally, it did boil down to, what was the perimeter? A congressman was asking about 135 yards, and that's not in a perimeter. What's the perimeter? And you're concerned, but the counter snipers are looking out to 1,000 yards, and who controls what? And the SWAT team local, we had heard that they were on the second floor. It's a tin roof. Could they not hear someone walking on the tin roof?
Good question.
Good questions. Really good questions were coming out. But again, they were not forthcoming. And I was surprised by even some of the Democrats asking some hard questions around, hey, 60 days is too long to have a final report. We need to know this sooner.
Well,
and
if
even
you really,
AOC came out and said 60 days is too long for a final report to come out.
Yeah, if you really think about it, Fred, this has nothing to do with being a Democrat, independent, or Republican. There is Secret Service. They protect executives. It doesn't matter what party you're affiliated with.
Yeah.
They protect executives, and they are crapping the bed here. So we need to find out what the heck happened here, so this doesn't get repeated. So I'm going to go back to this thing because I have a couple of things that I want to bring up to your attention, and I want to get your take on it. So of course, staffing wise, it appears we have plenty of staffing. That's what it appears, at least from.
Let's say adequate for the site. As I said, it wasn't. It was in a rural area. It wasn't, an urban site with high rises, crowded areas, a lot more things going on. So this did not appear to be too difficult with staffing and the time. It wasn't a last minute crunch, what we call, down and dirty type advance. They had time to prepare their op plan. Correct.
Okay, great. So now let's talk about resources. Besides staffing, actual technological stuff that we're talking about, drones and dogs and all of that stuff. So the Congress asked the Kimblerly Cheatle, right? Hey, were there any drone requests? I don't know if you've seen that part. She kept deflecting the question. She wasn't answering it. So she said that we didn't need the drones because we had everything covered. It was such a rural area, a couple of buildings and this and that. So don't quote me on it, but something along those lines that she said drones weren't deployed because it wasn't needed for that specific area. What are your thoughts as an expert?
I'll be honest with you. As I mentioned before, the use of the drones is just such a force multiplier. What a drone can see, you would need numerous agents to be able to be in place to take the place of what a drone can see. And I mentioned you can use one tech person to manage a drone. To me, that's not a resource issue. So I personally, if I were a director, I would put that standard SOP for most venue sites, especially a rally. A rally with 10 to 15,000 people, to get a good overview, the use of a drone would be ideal.
I got a question for you.
It's a no-brainer to me. I can't see why it wasn't deployed.
Okay, I agree with you. Especially, you're the expert here.
It's not like it was difficult to put in place. In the big picture of things, drones are a lot cheaper than putting an agent there, and the resources used. It can be done quickly.
as you said, a technician could easily fly. But I got a
Correct.
question for you, and this is going to be
Yeah.
something different. So now that I'm thinking about drones, and we're in 2024, we are technologically pretty doing really well as a country, as the world is doing really well, right? Pretty
Yeah.
advanced. So, you know, those IR flashers where
Yeah.
the aerial surveillance guys looking down at the soldiers and they kind of blink, like send beacons out. So you can tell who the
Yeah.
friendlies are, right?
Correct. Blue. So you don't have a blue on blue
Blue on
situation.
blue,
Yeah, we call it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So in an event like this, I've never been a Secret Service agent. I've done a couple of little things, but mine was different. And I'm asking because I don't know. Could Secret Service deploy something like this where a little beacon on every person who's on the detail? Hey, pin this on you and you don't take it off. And then so when there's a drone is up, drone can identify who the LEs are. It doesn't matter if it's on the roof, on the ground, anywhere, at all times.
Hi, Kaya, I like your line of thinking there. You know, you're thinking tactically.
Yeah.
With the cost of things now that are so cheap, yes, that's viable. It's viable. It's just stupid. You know, chem lights, they're about this big. They got the mini ones that are like this big. I mean, $1-2 a piece. Worst case scenario, you know, you put one of those IR type things on a lapel or something like that. But there's more high tech type of receivers or transmitters that could have been used. You're right.
Yeah, just
You know, without
something.
giving the things away. I mean, off the shelf type of thing, we could have put something together. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, just something
You know,
like a
just
little
off the shelf.
pin, you know, even a pin, just
Correct.
something that emits something. So when a drone is up in the air, just flying back and forth, or just even stationary, it could just
You
tell
can pinpoint where your postings are.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you could alert if someone's missing from a post.
Yeah. Well, you could
Correct.
see if an officer is walking on a tin roof, you could tell it's still blinking. You could identify that as a friendly. If it's not blinking and there's somebody walking on a roof, hey, what the heck? Who the hell is that guy? You can identify. That's so easy. Is that not? Am I just thinking too futuristic here?
No, you're not. I thought about a couple things after our last chat. Now,
bring it on.
I put in alarm systems. I work with those with the government and stuff, with some of the latest stuff. Now, think about this. It's too hot. You want to secure that roof. Put a portable motion detector up there. What the heck, huh? Put them on all the roofs. It'll alert to motion.
Great idea.
That's on that roof.
Simple. Somebody's got to run it.
Use technology. Don't fight it. Use technology to supplement your operation plan to enhance it. Whatever I can do to get and enhance my operation, I'm going to utilize within reason. And that some of those things are not costly measures. So you can't say, well, budget constraints are not going to allow me to use it. Hey, I can go to the mall and buy a portable motion detector and put it off. And people, birds are going to set it off. You set the things off. Simply Safe has them so it doesn't pick up animals. You know, there's adjustability. You want to pick a person, 130, 100, and 200 pound person, stomping around on a roof.
Yeah. No,
if it's too hot for you to get up there. But I mentioned the other day, if you have the bodies, you put a tarp, a tent up there if they're going to spend, but that was 6 o'clock in the evening. So it wasn't, 12, 1 o'clock scorching heat, in Phoenix, 118 degrees.
That's true. Hey, that screams complacency. Obviously, we're going to find out. Another thing that I thought about was those SWAT guys who were posted on that building. Again, that was in the op plan that building was posted per the Secret Service's advance planning. That building was posted. It was not a concern. That's what the director said. It was not a concern because we have handled it. We have mitigated it.
And along with that, Kai, one of the congressmen said that he said the SWAT team was posted on the second floor.
Yeah.
And that was a tin roof. Could they have not heard someone walking on the roof? So apparently he had information to ask the director that the SWAT team was on the second floor of that building. That is when they spotted him and took these pictures. You heard that too. Pictures were taken of the shooter. And why did it take so long? And yes, pictures went around. The command center was notified, or the TAC operations center. But my point was, well, why did nobody interview him? If he was suspicious in an area where we're securing that, talk to him. Hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But we just took these pictures. There was no personal interaction. Hey, I took a picture and passed it on.
Wait, who took the pictures?
One of the locals.
What?
That's
I thought it
according
was.
to.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that was what came out. That's what I picked up.
Okay, so wait, they took a picture? I mean, hey, listen, you've done
The
surveillance.
picture. There's two pictures. If you look on the internet on one of the local, the major networks and stuff, it shows him. He's kind of got long hair, and it shows a picture from the side, and then another one down there. And those are the pictures of him just before he's in position, but walking around while he became a person of suspicion.
Okay, so you've done surveillance. I've done surveillance, and you do take pictures, right? You just share it with the people that you're. Hey, you know what? You generally have an app or something that you share things through, and everybody's on that channel. And maybe that's what they did. Is, hey, there's a guy right here. Check it out, whatever. But still, if he's on the roof, or if he's in that area, isn't that pretty darn close by himself? Like,
I would say so too. So what happened to that picture? I would think if they did have Secret Service on the ground, I can tell you from my experience, it would have come to me, and I'd be looking for that person. I would do a person-to-person interview with him to determine more information if, in fact, he moves up the ladder from being a person of suspicion to a person of interest to being a person of suspicion or a threat.
Yeah,
to the principal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You've got to eliminate. You can't just say, hey, we took a picture of this guy and he was a person of interest. Well, what'd you do with that? And did anybody try to interview him to find out what was going on? Why was he in that area? Which was, I don't know if it was cordoned off or what it was, but apparently the police officer who took the picture felt that he was a concern in an area that they're trying to control. He took a picture and forwarded it on.
Dude,
now,
if you're controlling
why
an area,
did he leave his post and interact? Did he just say, hey, this is Secret Service's job? You can see there's a lot of wires crossed a little bit there as to when did they know it and how did they react to the picture, and why was he not interviewed to either neutralize the suspicion or find out what's going on?
All right, so here's a question then.
Sure.
Secret Service director said during her testifying that every local person is accompanied by a Secret Service agent.
Remember, we talked about that the other day. Yeah. I would say we couldn't confirm. We just said against speculation. How was it set up? I said from past experiences, from diplomatic security and me being around the Secret Service on details, that a Secret Service agent would be with larger groups to be able to have radio comms back and also direct them as needed.
You certainly did say that. And in this case, if a Secret Service agent was with those local guys, he would have hopefully acted on it. Nope, we got to get that guy out. We got to talk to him. So those guys, local guys, were alone, kind of in a way, hanging out.
Yeah, which you would think. I said, I think every day we're gonna find out more. What I did and what I do like is that there are several former retired type, so they can't be a whistleblower or retaliated against, that are coming out and speaking out now about their experience of working there and some of the work conditions, which brings me into a point about the overall working conditions.
Okay, let's jump into that.
She did mention, and she was asked, well, how many personnel? You're at the top. And they said, the buck stops with you. How many people do you have? And she said around 8,000. Okay?
8,000 agents,
and then she said, that includes technology, uniform, admin, the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh,
so
8,000 is not agents?
How many agents?
They're not agents?
No.
Okay.
No, 8,000 personnel total. Okay, now, of that, one of the congressmen asked, well, what's your compliment? How you doing hiring? Where are you at? And all this, because you could tell he had information that they weren't totally up to their full complement. And she said, well, I'm trying to get, and because a DEI question came out, and I don't really want to touch that. And he goes, and she went, we hold everyone to the same hiring standards and all this. And then it came out, well, hey, so where are you with hiring and what? Their goal is 9,200. So that's a 14% shortage right now that they're operating on right now, Kaya. So the Secret Service is at, 1,200 personnel short of their goal or their full complement.
Okay, so they got the budget. They actually got more money than they asked for from the Congress.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What I know that 30% goes into their training,
well,
as she said.
This goes to the next piece here. And one of the congressmen asked this about the best places to work in federal government rankings. And I got it up right now on my screen. And let me read something here. The Partnership for Public Service and Boston Consulting Group presented the 2023 Best Places to Work in the Federal Government rankings. The Secret Service came out to 413, all right? Which is at the bottom of the rung.
I have, back when
413 and out of 459.
Back when I was a trooper, I knew two guys who came back to the Illinois State Police, and they were Secret Service agents. So they left and became an agent
and came back.
And they're like, screw this. They came back. I remember that very vividly.
Yeah.
And people didn't want to work there.
Well, let me finish up. I got some crazier information here.
Okay.
Guess who's 412? Right behind them. Right with them.
HSI? No.
FBI. The FBI.
No way. Are you serious?
FBI
is 412?
413 Secret Service, 412 FBI. You ready for comparison? ATF is 365. My former agency, Diplomatic Security Service, is 356. And the Marshal Services rank 326. They're still at the bottom. That's still at the bottom.
Who's at the top?
And she was asked why, and she said, well, the Secret Service, you're traveling, it's 24 hours, it's shift work, it's difficult. Well, and somebody said, well, you're not the only agency that does that. The FBI, the same way, Diplomatic Security, the same way, ATF, Marshal Service runs, WITSAC program, everybody. But so what's systemic about these? And in my personal view, having been, almost 40 years of experience, Kaya, is that you've got to look at your leadership. And that gets me back to what's going on there. The leadership, your top rung of these government agencies, because it's the morale factor. And, the problem with government there is you become such a bureaucrat, and people just want to get promoted. And once they've reached the promotion and where they are, they become complacent. And, the rank and file, just like in the Secret Service and the FBI, I go back when Comey and McBride, they were getting pounded by everybody. And I have a lot of former FBI guys. They're great. They're doing hard work. But the leadership is steering the ship. And there's a lot of frustration at the workplace.
Dude.
There. It's hard to stay motivated when, the top rung of your organization is not concerned with a lot of like the day-to-day work conditions, your scheduling. Hey, suck it up, just do it. It's that and it's just a doldrum. Do you know who's down at the bottom? The last place?
Bureau of Prisons.
And I say a prayer for these guys. It's the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
I said it. I just said it. Did you hear it?
Kaya, you can't have a good day. The guy on the other side of that bar is spitting at you, peeing at you, yelling at you. On Christmas Day, you come in all gleeful and smile. If you let them loose, they'll try to kill you. So how can you get motivated every day to go in to watch convicts?
Dude, a lot of people are collecting paychecks.
There.
A lot of people are just collecting paychecks. No,
correct.
I said this on my other live streams before. People ask me, hey, why don't you leave the FBI, right? And I don't ever get into details. I get into details with you personally, obviously, off the record here.
Yeah.
But it's the executive management.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some idiot agents out there that I have seen. Okay. And if they're watching this, they know who they are. And then the executive management drank the Kool-Aid from at least one of those agents and just did some idiotic stuff, right? You know, and that's it. That's why I'm not there anymore. And with that being said, it's the executive management. Honestly, if the management was fair and just solid people, things would have gone completely differently for me.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, you don't have to get into it. I understand.
Yeah.
And you know what's ironic? I've been watching a lot of the different networks, and you know, a lot of the experts that come in from the former groups. There's a female that was on Fox. She was an agent, but they never retired. So maybe they did 8 years, maybe up to 12 years. Dan Bongino, good guy. He's got his own net. He's doing real well for himself. He only did, I think, 10, 12 years with the Secret Service. You know, he was NYPD before, but they didn't do a full tour. And, you know, so they saw the writing on the wall of, hey, do I want to stay around more, or do I want to keep challenging myself and do something better and move on? And a lot of them are out, you know, whether it's private industry or you know, they're consultants and things like that. So one of the things, and we've had this, I've talked to Jim, I've talked to Neil, my partners, and we talked about some of these things, you know, leadership and all this one. You know, I remember back when the military goes, well, you know, like a colonel, they're trying to be all businesslike and going, well, I'm a manager and all this one. Here's the deal. This is me, Fred Piry, talking. You manage tasks, you lead people. Okay? You lead people. So if you're at the top, okay, how did people get to be at the top? She left the Secret Service. She went to Pepsi for a couple of years, and she was appointed back by whatever.
What was her prior position?
You know, it said that Jill Biden had a big hand in her appointment back. I can't confirm that. That's some of the news networks and staying like that.
What was her position?
And she said she's the best to be at the helm at the Secret Service. And I question, is she the best leader to be at the helm? And you can look across a lot of the federal agencies and look at that. Were they promoted because they fit in and, you know, they didn't make waves, or were they the best person leadership wise to lead the organization?
No way. Okay. Go ahead, sorry. What was her position at the Secret Service before she left? You know,
I know she started in Michigan. I looked at it quickly. I don't know what she ended up. She said she did 27 years.
Okay.
I mean, she started pretty young because she's only 51, and so she started in her 20s. And she was in Michigan and bounced around. I'm sure she was at headquarters and maybe rode up to. Maybe she was a director of protective operations at one time. I don't know.
Listen, I'll tell you this. I'm not the smartest person in the bunch, right? But I think I'm doing all right. And I'll tell you this. I watched her testify today, right?
Yeah.
She is not a leader. She is not. The way she was responding to
a bureaucrat. She was a bureaucrat.
Yes, yeah. She is not a leader, dude. I'm not taking sides here. I don't really give a shit about the whole political stuff. I really am not. I just watched her give answers. And I did not see a leader giving answers.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen with her now? Do you think she's going to get fired or she's going to resign? One of those things is going to happen.
See, here's the problem. It is political. It's the administration, because who can fire her? Mayorkas?
No, Biden.
Well, I'm just saying, Mayorkas head of Homeland Security, technically.
I guess he can too, right?
Mayorkas. He could,
yeah.
But you've got this Biden angle, the political Biden angle, because Jill Biden apparently was the one who liked him because she was on the BP detail and stuff and brought her back. So you're telling me at that time there was nobody internally within the Secret Service who could have led the Secret Service. You had to bring somebody who retired for several years that went to Pepsi and bring that person back to lead the Secret Service.
Yeah.
I mean, this discussion came around the low ranking and stuff, and that is because of the morale. And The morale issue stems from lack of concern from leadership, from top management, and people feel that, hey, nobody listens. I like doing what I'm doing, but man, it's day in, day out. It's grueling, it's grinding, and you feel sorry for the day-to-day job that the agents are doing, much like at that time the FBI under the Comey McBride thing, when they were doing their own thing politically, and the Secret Service, the FBI was taking a beating. It wasn't the street agents, because they're doing their job, and it's just the politics when it gets involved. The Secret Service the same way. The guys reacted. There was a couple things that we pointed out to be able to get off that X a lot quicker and things like that. But hey, when the day ends, they jumped up there. One of the guys, congressman, said, they jumped up. She said, they heroically jumped up there, and he goes, yeah, too. Well, 5.56 is gonna, this body bunker is not going to stop a rifle. It's going to go right through the level 3A or level 3+ vest and the chest or the torso, and go right into the principal. That's why you need to keep moving and get out of there. Yeah. But again, they rose to the occasion.
Okay.
They rose to the occasion.
I agree.
I
think my personal opinion, and we talked about this with you, Fred, on the part 1. Again, if you guys haven't seen part 1, definitely check it out. They've done a good job. Like overall, they could have moved a little bit quicker, you said, but overall they went in there a little panicky, which we all get it. It's a chaos over there. Over 20,000 people, they said, by the way.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And every time we have an after action report, right? Every time we do something, and there's always going to be some things you're going to identify that you didn't do all that well. You could do better, and those are normal. And we get it. Overall, I think they did a good job. Kind of, they could have done a few things better, but they got the person out of it.
We could critique certain things there. Looked a little confused around the vehicle, things like that, and that. But again, like I told you yesterday, 90% boredom, routine, and 10% sheer balls to the wall.
Okay, I got a question.
That's what it was. That was what it was during those 15 minutes of sheer adrenaline rush, fight or flight.
I got a question.
That's what it was.
I had a question. So kind of jumping back and forth a little bit. Remember that girl who couldn't holster a gun?
Yeah.
Everybody
at the car.
Yeah, exactly. So she was from the Pittsburgh field office, and there's another female there, maybe a couple of guys there, whatever. So there's that permanent detail, and so there's the supplemental folks from the field office. You are the director of Secret Service, okay? Or you are the special agent in charge, or the what was that title of the person who'd be in charge in that detail?
Well, like the details are, you call them the SAC, the special agent in charge. But when you're doing the actual detail, we call that person the AIC, the agent in charge of the protective detail.
All right, you are the agent in charge
at the time,
or you're the agent in charge over there, or you're just director of Secret Service, whatever. On a detail like this, at that magnitude, Donald Trump, former president of the United States, the nominee of the Republican Party, and perhaps most likely the next president. Would you still put, because it looked like, again, when I look at that girl, again, I'm not going to be one of those guys who's attacking that girl. I'm not going to do that. Everybody did that. I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
But it looks like she's just not that experienced. She's pretty new. Maybe she doesn't have all that, badass factor. Who would you put around Donald Trump, even of supplemental agents? Like, would you not request, hey, give me some of your best?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, in putting this together, some of the congressmen were on the right track, asking the questions. We didn't get the answers. And that was, you're alluding to exactly what they're trying to get to. And that was, given the fact and elevate the threat against him, the Iranian threat, the fact that all these news agencies, I won't mention the names of them, but it's like the Trump derangement syndrome and the rhetoric that's used from comparing him to Hitler and Mussolini, he must be stopped at all costs and all this one. He has a very high profile. I would definitely utilize, if I had to pull from the field offices, and when they make the selection, it's a lot of times we used to joke and say, It's the last, because a lot of stuff pops up at the last minute over the weekend. It's who didn't get out of the field office in time, and you're stuck. But I would have made a conscious effort to pick more experienced personnel to put them on that detail.
Thank you. That's exactly how I feel too. And I didn't want to say it. I want you to say it. I'm like, come on, man. Again, I'm not going to be crapping on that girl, but still,
You know,
seriously.
if you have inexperienced personnel, you know, you supplement them, say the advanced team. I would have the core people on the advanced team, and kind of mentor the younger agents. They need to see how it's done. But I really wouldn't put them in a position of responsibility or anything, or if something critical. I'd say, you know, they're shadowing one of the site agents who's like maybe doing the buildings. Hey, go with John or Margaret who's doing that, and shadow them so you see how it's done. But, you know, you're not going to say, hey, here's the playbook, go over there and figure it out with the locals. So you're going to mentor them along. Again, this gets back to leadership and training.
Okay.
You know, training.
So now that's fantastic. The shadowing part, everything, that's how you learn on the field, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
but you don't throw them right into the deep end. You know, you just don't sink or swim into the deep end.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
You really don't. I agree with you. And I love these insights that you're bringing, by the way. I mean, I am talking to you right now, and I'm so like, my eyes are open, my ears are open. I'm just like listening to you. And I'm sure the folks who are watching this.
I mean, it has to come out, because they were saying it's been 42, 43 years since something of this magnitude came out. And now we have a lot more technology and resources that we can use. And, you know, it happened. So we have really got to tear this thing apart and after action it and say, this can't happen again. And some simple things could be put in place, getting back to that darn drone issue.
Okay, exactly.
You and I talked about it. I still can't figure out why it wasn't used. You know, and well, you know, we evaluate and all this. You could double talk the thing out of it. That should be a given.
Yeah.
That should be a given.
I agree with you. That's complacency 101 right there. Hey, you know what? That's good enough. That's good enough. We don't need it. Dude, it's a drone. But, okay. What do you think is the future of Secret Service now going forward? Trump specifically and other executives too, but how is Trump going to be protected? Do you think his personnel level is going to be upped? And what do you think Secret Service is going to do going forward? What are they going to learn from this?
Good question. All right. One of the congressmen asked her the question and said, I noticed at the RNC that everyone was larger. Agents were larger.
Right. They were.
All right. Without getting into the DEI and all the other stuff. And her response was basically that, well, you know, these guys work shifts, and, you know, maybe it wasn't the same shift it's shift work.
What a bullshit answer.
You didn't see the same people because they may have been off. To your other question, I'll leave that as is. To your other question, going forward, I definitely see an increase in resources to former President Trump, because this has now come out. I just saw that the Secret Service went after somebody for a threat against Trump. I don't know if it was an internet thing or what it was. I just got a glimpse of it. But I mean, there's threats all the time. So I would say definitely now that he has been declared and JD Vance is now the VP, and, you know, people are speculating that, hey, this is going to be, you know, this is the new management team for the country. You know, they're going to be the president and the vice president. So I would say definitely they're beefing that detail up, because they're under the microscope right now by everybody. So I mean, they're pulling resources from wherever onto this thing, so they can't make a mistake. Now, moving forward, what's going to look at? As I mentioned before, I've seen, and being on the accountability review boards, that what comes out of these things is, yes, they'll get an influx of additional money, but they have money right now, Kaya, and they're close to 14% shortage. So how does more money help you in hiring? It's not, they can't get paid anymore because the general services pay scale is what it is for a new agent coming in. You can't just offer, like private industry, a lot of different incentives. So how is more money that they already have going to get additional agents
Well, and
because they're
also
14% short.
also events like this aren't going to motivate people to apply. Do you
Yeah.
want to be a Secret Service agent right now? Like,
I mean,
it's embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, the young person growing up sees that, and wow, that to them, I want to be. Think about it when you were, younger and you came here and you became a local and stuff. You aspired. You wanted to be an FBI agent eventually,
Oh,
and you did.
absolutely.
Okay. And people go, I want to be a Secret Service agent because people, it's esteemed, it's a high prestigious looking job, it's all that, and people feel for personal reasons they want to do that. I mean, the same thing with being a federal agent. There, you've reached in your mind, you've reached the pinnacle.
Exactly. Listen, I gotta say this.
You've reached that pinnacle.
I gotta say this too. I've worked with a couple of Secret Service guys, met a couple of them. I didn't really do a lot of stuff with them. I did some stuff with marshals and other folks.
Mm-hmm.
I can just go and assume there are some badasses in there. There's some awesome folks in there. And I feel really bad for them because their name, their uniform, their badge is getting tarnished because of the incompetence of the leadership that they are under, unfortunately, or whoever shit the bed, right? That's why I feel bad for them. And anybody watching right now, my hat's off to you and keep fighting the good fight, of course. It just is not motivating folks right now wanting to apply. The FBI, the same thing. When a couple of things come out, it really tarnishes that badge. In the FBI, I know to this day, there's some awesome people that I went to Quantico with. There's some folks that I work with. Fantastic human beings, at the same time, shitty ones. They know who they are. So there's good and bad people everywhere. But unfortunately, events like this just damage that badge, tarnish that uniform so much.
You're right. It damages the organization.
Organization, exactly. And it sucks. It sucks because there's some good folks in there, and they're kind of they're not able to, like right now, they're going to have a hard time hiring more people. I mean, look at law enforcement in general. They're having a hard time getting people in.
I mean, look at my former agency. I've been through the whole thing. Having embassies blown up, losing people, losing, Benghazi. We lost, I told you, we lost the assistant secretary, the director, and the head of international programs. I mean, how do you think it feels to the rank and file?
Yeah.
From the organization point of view. I mean, they were screaming resources like crazy, and they had military resources, and they were denied. And the military was told to go home. And then in that August and then that September, all Hades broke loose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they sent, the agents that were out there were not as experienced, but they had the hearts of a lion. You don't hear about some of these guys. They got burned. They were, I think the one had his leg amputated, and they were shrouded from talking to anybody for like a year while they were recovering up at Frankfurt. But, again, those are the agents. They're doing the job. It's the organization that failed them. And, having been there, I mean, the whole thing with Nairobi, they didn't have certain things. They had the MSG guards, all that. And you find out that the cameras in the back weren't working. Why? Well, we had requests in, budget this and that. It's like this big bulldozer that doesn't move, and the agents are behind it trying to move it, and they can't. And that's the organization. FBI the same way.
The FBI same way. I say this all the time. Boots on the ground.
The same way.
Boots on the ground. They're everyday folks, good people. A lot of good people that I know, like, especially in the firearms industry that I'm in, a lot of people hate the FBI. Oh man, the shit that I hate that I get. However, only if they knew there's some freaking awesome people in there. Like I always tell people, anybody needs to hate the FBI, it's me, right? And I don't, because I'm smart enough to know what happened or what happens in there. Let's just say. But anyways, okay. So let me ask you this. You are the director of Secret Service.
Yeah.
You were the director. Okay, you are, whatever. And this thing happened on your watch. All right, what are you doing?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'm old school. I would take responsibility because, as she says, the buck stops with her. The buck does stop with her. And if I were her, I would resign. So if I were in that position, as much as it kills me, it's not like, well, hey, we won't make it happen again. You have to accept the responsibility, and accepting responsibility means being held accountable. And she's got to leave.
Okay.
I would do the same thing. If I were in her position, how could I justify staying?
Before you resign, what would you do?
You created it. That for 2 years or however long she's been there, it's a product of her leadership, and it failed. So you have to accept the responsibility and be held accountable for it.
Okay, before you resign, what do you do?
Definitely, I would look at the training. I would look at the manpower, and like she said, one of the congressmen
Would you fire anybody?
What
would you fire anybody?
Oh, definitely. I would look at, wherever that falls into, you've got to look at, okay, who touched that? They asked this, and she did not give a clear answer. Like, who touched that advance or ops plan that went back to headquarters? Well, it was almost like a committee looking at it and all this stuff. Ultimately, who is responsible for it?
Yeah.
What division did it fall under? Protective operations, I believe. So whoever that division fell under there, they're going to have to, I would say that person also has to leave, because they're responsible. You can't just have the director leave. It's like diplomatic security. Benghazi fell under international programs. The director of IP, international programs, left.
Yeah. Because I'm
under
thinking,
the Benghazi thing.
I'm thinking definitely. So that's why I asked you the question. Before you resign, what would you do? Because I feel like the agent in charge, whoever was responsible, setting all that thing up and ran that show.
Yeah. Well, I think, Callie, the better question is, how many people are going to listen to the person that's getting ready to leave? Okay. The next thing is, what should the new leadership look like coming in, and what would they do to change things to get the trust and confidence of the general public, Congress, and the agents behind you? That's the truth test. Okay. Who comes in, who's going to be innovative? What changes are they going to make around training? Look at the scheduling to make sure that in-service training happens and that the people aren't getting overworked, and that the persons who are working on the detail have in-service training every X amount of weeks or whatever it is. You ask them, when was the last time they qualify? I don't know. I know every 3 months you're required, at my agency you're required, our tactical units, they're shooting every 24 hours. But how often are they, but their job is so quick and precise that they should be doing it more often. Whether it's a qualification, but training on attacks on principle or different scenarios that are put at them. That's what we call in-service training. How about, driver training every once in a while and things like that? All the specialty training, they have, their drivers are, specialty. That's what they do. So, how often are they getting out to get on the track and, really put their skills to use? Or are they just being overworked and go from, one protective detail to another, and, one rally to another to another? So I think that the incoming director would have to look at all those things, because you're inheriting a morale-beaten rank and file, and your trust and confidence to Congress, the administration, and the public is at the bottom right now. So what are you going to do to build that up?
That's a very good point. What are you going to do to build that up? So I got a question.
That's the task.
On this one. Last question. What's your prediction on the Kimblerly Cheatle? Do you think she's going to resign, or she's going to stay, resign, or get fired? What do you think is going to happen?
She's going to leave. How that happens, I really can't say, because it's politics. And you heard Biden. He was so strong that he wasn't leaving. I wake up, the next day and he's leaving. So
that's another story.
You sit in there. I'm not resigning and I'm not doing this. Well, one or two things is happening. She's either going to get fired or she's going to resign. Which of those, I don't know. But the ultimate outcome is she will be removed. However, the title is behind that.
I feel like
being the director of the Secret Service.
I feel like
she can't stay
after this Congress deal. Well, after the investigation is over, whatever is going to be revealed, they said 60 days. Hopefully it's done sooner. Yeah. I think after the investigation, when the smoke clears, she's going to see how big of an F up this was. And I think she'll resign. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, like Biden said, for the betterment of the country, I'm doing all this. And for the betterment of the Secret Service to move forward, she needs to leave.
Very well said. Ladies and
And
gentlemen,
the longer she stays, the more morale-driven animosity will continue.
I agree.
And it's got to end. And
if you're
it
Trump,
won't
do you
end
really-
until she leaves.
If you're Trump, do you really trust the protection that it's being afforded to you right now? You know what I'm saying?
Good question.
Yeah. Like if I'm Trump, I'm like, man, this
And
woman is
then
still out there.
knowing Trump, he probably has a hand on it and says, I want certain people and I want this person out of here and I want a certain person and I want to look the part and I want this. He's probably making some demands, rightly so. The guy survived an assassination attempt. Think about that.
Yeah. And you know what? We will find out more.
The Secret Service is the Praetorian Guard. And this, it goes way back to the chivalry days. And if your Praetorian Guard is failing you, you've got to make some changes.
Yeah, exactly.
The king's got to make some changes.
I can't wait to see what those changes are, but we're going to find more and more and more information as the days go on. And I'm sure, Fred, you and I will do part 3 on this one. Yeah. I can't wait to do it when the investigation's over. So we can compare notes from the part 1, obviously this one, and the third one. We'll see how accurate we were. We're going to find out. We're going to see. And also, we're going to see how much information is being released from the investigation. That is also that part, right? We're going to find out. Fred, really appreciate your time, man. Sure. It's an honor. And I can't wait to do this
again. Great to be on, Kaya.
All right, man. We'll see you on the next one. Guys, check out Fred Piry, Active Crisis.
Thank you.